Roman Reigns just attacked Brock Lesnar on Raw in the most vicious, personal assault we've seen in years. And what's absolutely infuriating is that this wasn't a storyline beatdown with pulled punches and dramatic pauses. This was Roman legitimately trying to end Brock's career in front of a horrified crowd, proving that their rivalry has transcended wrestling into something darker and more dangerous that WWE might not be able to control. I'm about to break down every brutal moment of this attack that had medical staff rushing to the ring, why Roman's actions on January 10, 2026 reveal a side of the tribal chief we've never seen before and might never see again, how Brock Lesnar's condition and potential response will determine whether this becomes the greatest feud of the decade or a legitimate safety concern that forces WWE to intervene, and why Paul Heyman's complete absence during this assault tells us everything about the fractures in Roman's inner circle that nobody's discussing. Let me set this powder keg because the context makes Roman's attack even more shocking and unforgivable. Brock Lesnar wasn't even scheduled to appear on Raw. He wasn't advertised, wasn't part of any announced segments, had no reason to be in the building. He was there for a production meeting about WrestleMania planning, a completely innocent behind-the-scenes reason that had nothing to do with on-screen storylines. Roman knew this, and Roman ambushed him anyway. The attack happened during the main event segment when Cody Rhodes was in the ring cutting a promo about defending the WWE Championship. Mid-sentence, the lights cut out completely. Not a dimming for dramatic effect, total blackout that left the arena in confused silence. When the lights came back up 15 seconds later, Roman Reigns was standing in the ring behind Cody, but he wasn't looking at the champion. He was staring at the entrance ramp where Brock Lesnar had been forcibly dragged out by the Bloodline. Solo Sikoa, the Tongans, Jacob Fatu, they all had Brock surrounded, holding him in place while Roman slowly walked up the ramp. The crowd didn't know whether to boo or be genuinely concerned because this wasn't playing out like a worked angle. There was no music, no dramatic pronouncements, just Roman walking toward a restrained Brock with murder in his eyes. Drop in the comments immediately. Was Roman Reigns justified in this attack based on their history, or did he cross a line that even the tribal chief shouldn't cross? The moral ambiguity here is what makes this so compelling and controversial. What happened next will be replayed and analyzed for years. Roman didn't cut a promo, didn't explain himself, just started systematically destroying Brock Lesnar with strikes that looked stiff even by their standards. Superman punches that snapped Brock's head back with sickening thuds, forearm shivers that sounded like gunshots echoing through the arena, and then the spears, multiple spears on the entrance ramp where there's no give, no cushion, just steel and pain. Brock tried to fight back initially, throwing those trademark Brock punches that have felled giants, but 4-on-1 odds with Roman orchestrating the assault meant Brock couldn't generate any sustained offense. Every time he'd break free momentarily, another Bloodline member would grab him, hold him still, and Roman would continue the punishment. The crowd was chanting, "This is awesome," at first, trained by years of wrestling to react to chaos with excitement. But those chants died out when it became clear this wasn't stopping, wasn't building to a satisfying conclusion, was just Roman hurting Brock for the sake of hurting him. The energy shifted from excitement to concern, with some fans yelling for someone to stop it, others filming on their phones in shock. Security tried to intervene around the 5-minute mark, but the Bloodline physically prevented them from getting close. Referees tried, same result. Even other wrestlers started coming out from the back, faces and heels alike recognizing that this had gone too far. But the Bloodline formed a wall that nobody was willing to breach because you don't fight Roman Reigns and his family unless you're prepared for war. Question for the comments. Should other WWE superstars have rushed the Bloodline to save Brock Lesnar even at risk to themselves? Or were they smart to stay back and avoid getting caught in the crossfire? The wrestler code of conduct is being tested here. The most disturbing spot came when Roman grabbed a chair, the universal symbol in wrestling that things are about to escalate beyond acceptable limits. He didn't swing it wildly, didn't use it for dramatic chair shots to the back that look devastating but are relatively safe. He methodically, coldly, placed the chair around Brock's ankle in a concerto formation and prepared to stomp it, the same move that's broken ankles in storylines for decades. The crowd was screaming no, legitimate distress in their voices. This wasn't fun anymore, this was uncomfortable. Roman looked at the crowd, acknowledged their pleas, and stomped anyway. The sound was sickening even if it was worked, and Brock's scream of pain was too real, too visceral to be completely performance. Medical staff immediately rushed in despite the Bloodline's presence, genuinely concerned about Brock's ankle. Roman wasn't done. While medical staff attended to Brock's ankle, Roman grabbed Brock by the hair, forced him to look up, and said something the cameras didn't pick up but lip readers on social media later deciphered as, "You should have stayed gone." Then Roman hit one more spear, this time onto the chair, and finally walked away, leaving Brock in a crumpled heap surrounded by medics and terrified officials. The crowd sat in stunned silence as medical staff loaded Brock onto a stretcher. No music played, no commentary tried to hype what just happened, just the somber reality of watching someone get legitimately hurt on television. Whether Brock's injuries are as serious as they appeared or if this is brilliant selling remains to be seen, but in the moment, it felt dangerously real. The immediate aftermath on social media was chaos. Wrestling fans debated whether this was the most intense angle in years or if WWE had genuinely lost control and allowed something too violent to air. Mainstream media picked up the story, questioning whether professional wrestling had crossed ethical lines. WWE's stock price actually dipped slightly in after-hours trading due to concerns about potential backlash. Drop your take. Did WWE go too far with this attack? Or is this exactly the kind of edge that modern wrestling needs to compete with other entertainment? The line between compelling and irresponsible is what we're all debating. Paul Heyman's absence is the detail that reveals this is more than just a beatdown. Heyman's been Roman's Wiseman for years, the mouthpiece, the strategist, the person who talks Roman out of his worst impulses. For Roman to attack Brock, Heyman's client for even longer than he's been Roman's advisor, without Heyman present or sanctioning it, suggests a massive fracture in their relationship. Reports from backstage say Heyman was in the building but refused to come out during the attack. Some sources claim he tried to talk Roman out of it beforehand and was overruled. Others say Heyman's loyalties are torn between his tribal chief and the beast incarnate, and he chose to stay neutral by absenting himself entirely. Either scenario suggests the Bloodline's foundation is cracking, and this attack might be the beginning of its collapse. The historical context of Roman and Brock's rivalry makes this attack feel inevitable and tragic. They've faced each other at WrestleMania multiple times, had some of the most physical matches in WWE history, and there's always been this underlying sense that their professional respect barely masks genuine dislike. Every interaction they've had over the years has carried an edge that felt too real to be completely worked. This attack is Roman finally giving in to that genuine animosity. Consequences be damned. He's no longer playing the calculating tribal chief who thinks 3 moves ahead. He's operating on pure emotion, pure rage, and that makes him more dangerous than he's ever been because unpredictable Roman is infinitely more threatening than strategic Roman. Brock's response when he's medically cleared will define this entire storyline. If Brock comes back looking for revenge, we're headed toward a match that'll be advertised as a fight rather than a wrestling match, possibly at WrestleMania with a stipulation that allows maximum violence. If Brock's legitimately injured and has to take months off, Roman cemented himself as the most dangerous person in WWE and everyone else should be terrified. Question: if this leads to a match at WrestleMania, what stipulation would best fit the intensity of this rivalry? Hell in a Cell? Last Man Standing? Or something even more extreme? The match type needs to match the hatred. The Bloodline's role in this attack raises questions about their long-term trajectory. Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, and the Tongans just participated in what might be attempted career-ending assault on Brock Lesnar. They're complicit, they're accessories, and when consequences come, they'll be targeted alongside Roman. This might be what finally turns some of them against the tribal chief, recognizing that blind loyalty to Roman is leading them down a path that ends in destruction. The psychology of attacking someone in a non-wrestling environment is significant. Brock wasn't in his gear, wasn't prepared for a fight, was in street clothes attending a business meeting. Roman attacked someone at their most vulnerable, which is both tactically smart and morally reprehensible. It's the move of someone who's stopped caring about honor or fair play and only cares about inflicting maximum damage. WWE's booking decision to air this without pulling back or protecting Brock through camera cuts suggests they're committed to this darker direction. They showed everything, let the discomfort sit with the audience, didn't try to sanitize the violence or make it palatable. That's a bold creative choice that'll either pay off with the most intense storyline in years or backfire if audiences decide it's too much. The timing is interesting too. WrestleMania season is approaching, and WWE typically builds their biggest matches during this period. Roman attacking Brock now sets up 3 months of storytelling where Brock's recovery, return, and eventual confrontation with Roman can be built to a fever pitch. If executed properly, Roman versus Brock at WrestleMania could be the most anticipated match on the card. But there's risk involved. If Brock's actually injured and can't return by WrestleMania, WWE's gambled Roman's momentum on an angle that can't pay off properly. If fan backlash to the violence is severe enough, sponsors might pressure WWE to tone things down, undermining the entire storyline. High-risk, high-reward booking that could either elevate everyone involved or crater spectacularly. Drop your bold prediction. How does this storyline end? Roman wins decisively and establishes permanent dominance. Brock wins and retires Roman, or some third option involving the Bloodline's collapse. Each ending tells a different story about WWE's priorities. The absence of any championship implications is notable. This isn't about titles, this is personal. Roman's not the champion. Brock's not chasing gold. This is pure hatred between two alphas who can't coexist. That actually makes it more compelling because the stakes are pride, respect, and possibly careers rather than just championship hardware. Cody Rhodes getting overshadowed in his own segment speaks to how monumental this attack was. The WWE champion was cutting a promo and became a complete afterthought when Roman's assault on Brock happened. That's not accidental, that's WWE signaling that Roman versus Brock transcends normal championship storylines and operates on a different level. The moral complexity of this situation is what'll keep fans arguing for weeks. Roman's not wrong that Brock has tortured him physically over the years, has beaten him at pivotal moments, has been an obstacle to Roman's success. From Roman's perspective, this is payback for years of abuse. But the method, the ambush, the complete lack of mercy, that's what crosses the line from justified revenge to villainous excess. Brock's not innocent either. He's brutalized countless people over his career, shown little mercy when he has someone beaten, and operated with the philosophy that might makes right. Roman's just applying Brock's own methodology back to him, which is poetic but doesn't make it right. Two wrongs don't make a right, and this attack is definitely a wrong regardless of justification. The fan reaction split along predictable lines. Roman supporters see this as the tribal chief finally putting Brock down permanently, proving Roman's the true alpha. Brock's fans see this as cowardly, 4-on-1 assault on someone who wasn't prepared. Neutral fans are just excited for the storyline this creates, caring less about right and wrong and more about compelling television. All three perspectives are valid, which is what makes this angle work. There's no clear hero or villain, just two incredibly dangerous men with legitimate grievances and no willingness to compromise. That moral ambiguity creates better storytelling than simple good versus evil dynamics. Final question. Is this attack the beginning of Roman Reigns' greatest chapter or the start of his downfall? The tribal chief just crossed a line he can't uncross, and karma in wrestling always comes due. Share this if you think Roman's attack was the most intense segment WWE's done in years. Hit like if you're worried this was too violent even for wrestling, and drop your complete analysis in the comments because this is the moment everyone will reference when discussing 2026 wrestling. Roman Reigns attacked Brock Lesnar with intent to injure. The wrestling world is reeling from the brutality, and whatever comes next will determine whether this was genius or madness. The tribal chief has declared war on the beast incarnate, and when these two collide again, the entire